A long, long time ago, high up in the mountains of what we now call Ecuador, there was a volcano called Tungurahua. But she wasn't just a mountain. People believed she was a fiery goddess. Legend says she fell head over heels for the warrior god of a nearby volcano, Chimborazo. But when he broke her heart, she cried tears of fiery lava that flowed down into the valleys. Even today, people say that when Tungurahua erupts, it's because her heart is burning with sadness all over again. But just wait until you see how a mountain in Ecuador beats Mount Everest. Welcome to Nations of the World, the show that explores what makes each country special, its land, its stories, its history, and loads more. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments which country you want to see next. And stick around until the end for a quiz to see how much you've learned. Ecuador sits right on the equator in northwestern South America. It's like four worlds rolled into one. The tall Andes Mountains, the amazing Amazon rainforest, the sunny Pacific coast, and the famous Galápagos Islands. It's about 283,500 square kilometers, or 109,400 square miles. And over 18 million people live there. The capital city is Quito, the second highest capital in the world, and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Here's something that'll make you think Mount Chimborazo, Ecuador's tallest mountain, is actually the closest point on Earth to the sun. That's because the Earth bulges out a bit at the equator. Pretty cool, right? Ecuador is nestled between Colombia to the north and Peru to the east and south. The Pacific Ocean is to the west and the huge Amazon rainforest is to the east. And let's not forget the Galápagos Islands, about 600 miles off the coast. That's where Charles Darwin studied finches, tortoises, and marine iguanas, which helped him come up with the theory of evolution. Now that we know where it is, let's explore the stories behind this amazing country. Long before explorers from Europe arrived, people told a story about the sun god Inti. He fell in love with a human woman, and to show his love, he painted the sky gold and gave her people maize, a sacred crop. This special connection between the sky, sun, and land became really important to the people of the Andes and shaped the empires that came later. Ecuador's story begins thousands of years ago with indigenous cultures like the Valdivia, the oldest known civilization in the Americas, and the Caras and Quaitas people. They built advanced societies long before the Incas arrived. These early people were skilled potters, created trade routes, and had special ceremonies connected to the earth. But wait till you hear what ancient people did to their skulls. Some groups even changed the shape of babies' skulls. They used boards or special wraps to do this. It was a tradition that showed which family you were from or how important you were. In the late 1400s, the Inca Empire, led by Emperor Huayna Capac, expanded north and took over Ecuador. Quito became a major city for the Incas, linked by a vast network of roads. Along with these roads, the Quechua language spread throughout the Andes, known as the Capac-Nan. This ancient system, which stretched from Colombia to Chile, also appeared in some of our earlier South American episodes. Along with these roads, the Quechua language spread throughout the Andes, and you can still hear it spoken today. You might recall Quechua from those same episodes, where it remains a vital part of indigenous culture. The empire was mighty, but it ended in betrayal and blood. But then came the Spanish. In 1533, a Spanish explorer called Sebastián de Belalcázar arrived just as a civil war had weakened the Inca Empire. Quito fought back bravely. Legend says that Ruminahué, a local leader, destroyed the city so the Spanish couldn't have it. But in the end, Spain took control and created a new society, mixing European buildings with indigenous workers and dividing people based on their race and class. The fight for freedom started in the early 1800s. After years of fighting, Ecuador finally won its independence in 1822 with the help of Simon Bolivar and joined a new country called Gran Colombia. But that didn't last long, and by 1830 Ecuador became its own independent nation. The name Ecuador comes from the Spanish word for equator. That's because Ecuador is one of the few countries where the equator goes right through the land. You can actually stand with 1 foot in each half of the world. Ecuador has seen a lot: dictators, changes, revolutions, and even earthquakes, both political and real ones. Its history is a mix of stories, struggles, and triumphs. In 2012, Ecuador made headlines by granting asylum to WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. He lived for 7 years in its London embassy, a bold diplomatic stand under President Rafael Correa that highlighted Ecuador's defense of sovereignty and press freedom. But the real spirit of Ecuador goes much deeper into its symbols. Even Ecuador's flag tells a dramatic story of independence. Ecuador's flag is bright and colorful. Yellow for wealth, blue for the sea and sky, and red for the blood spilled in its fight for freedom. In the middle is a coat of arms with a picture of the Guayas River, a condor, and the snowy peak of Chimborazo. The Andean condor, Ecuador's national animal, represents strength and freedom. The cinchona tree, where quinine comes from, the first medicine for malaria, is Ecuador's national tree. Now let's hear some of the legends that shaped its heart. And in the heart of the Amazon, spirits of water and forest still whisper. Ecuador has lots of amazing stories, especially from the Quechua and Shuar people. One tells of Tungurahua, the fiery volcano goddess, angry because someone betrayed her. Another tells of magical spirits in the Amazon who protect the jungle's secrets. These stories aren't just for fun, they influence festivals, beliefs, and even how people live their lives. But how does this magical land survive in modern times? Ecuador's currency is the US dollar, but that wasn't always the case. Even though it's not a huge country, Ecuador sells a lot of bananas, shrimp, and flowers to other countries. Oil is also a big part of its economy. And here's something unusual. Ecuador doesn't use its own money. It started using the US dollar in the year 2000. Lots of people visit Ecuador to see the Galápagos Islands, the Amazon rainforest, and old colonial towns that look like they're frozen in time. Now let's talk about what people speak and believe. Spanish is the official language, but indigenous languages like Quechua and Shuar are still spoken a lot in the highlands and the jungle. Most people in Ecuador are Roman Catholic, but many people in the countryside mix Christian beliefs with older indigenous traditions, creating a very spiritual and diverse culture. Quechua, the ancient language of the Andes, it's a connection between people in the mountains across different countries, sharing wisdom passed down from their ancestors who lived close to the land. Now that you've seen a land of roaring volcanoes and dancing spirits, it's time for a challenge. Can you remember the 4 different regions that make Ecuador so special? Or the name of the mountain closest to the sun? Tell us your answers in the comments below. That was Nations of the World. Want more epic stories like this? Hit subscribe and tell us which country or region you want us to explore. Our next episode was actually inspired by a viewer's request. See you Sunday.